Hello appraisers! In this Spark Spotlight video, we're going to be going over actives versus listings, what the difference is between the two, and we're going to spend the majority of the time really on actives and how they're calculated based on Fannie Mae's definitions, because you can get some much more accurate information using Spark rather than just basing your data or your decisions on the trend for actives and housing supply just based on these three numbers. So let's go ahead and get in how these are calculated and how Fannie Mae wants them calculated. So the way to look at that is going up to this gear icon in the top right, and you can click on Calculations. That takes you to Spark's Calculations page, which currently looks like this, but we're going to be changing it up a little bit. But essentially, number 2 is what we're focused on. How many sales / actives in a time period? So sales is easy. Actives, not so much. So this is how Fannie Mae wants actives calculated. And by the way, this right here is from Fannie Mae's selling guide. It's directly from there, so you can see we're basing it on how they want things calculated. But essentially, this is how it works. Fannie Mae wants the number of actives to be based on the following. How many actives there are on the last day of each time period. So, and you can read that all right here. You can go to Fannie Mae's selling guide yourself. But essentially, let's just get out of this page and let's go back into Spark. So this is how it works. How many actives are there available on the last, or I should say most recent date of this time period? And by the way, the most recent date of this time period, as we know, is going to be the effective date. So that's January 26, 2017. So as of that date, there were 8 properties actively available, and that's the most recent date of this time period. And then for this one, on the most recent date of this time period, which actually is another way to say that is 1 day after this time period ended. So 3 months and 1 day ago, how many actives were there on the market? And there were 6. And then how many actives were there on the most recent date of this time period, which again, another way to say that is 6 months and 1 day ago, so 1 day after this, before this time period started, I should say, how many actives were there? And there were 2. So there were 2, 6, and 8. Now, if you think about that, that's 3 days out of 365 total days in a year. That's a snapshot of just 3 days in time. And I don't think that's probably a great way to make a decision on whether things are declining, stable, or increasing. And I know you might think, well, who cares? Like, this isn't going to change my value. But as far as reporting your market, I would say it's real easy because in Spark, you just click here, and you can quickly see what the trend actually is. And you can see that even though this is 2, 6, and 8, which, by the way, that's this day, you can see 8 MLSs. Let's see, this day, this day, there were 6 MLSs, and this day, there were 2 MLSs. So those 3 snapshots in time, that's what this is. But here, you actually get all 365 days. You can actually see what the entire trend is, and we run regression on all of that. So you can see, okay, things are actually going down at 1.6% a month. They're not going up at all. Now, they are going up if you just look at those snapshots in time. And so these are also snapshots in time because we do these just like Fannie Mae does. So this is a snapshot of, let's go with this. So this is that 8 days. So if we look at just the effective date, 0 to 3 months, that's the 8, that's the 6, that's the 2, the 5, and so on, because that's 2 years worth. But let's just look at the past 12. So you can see here, we've got here, let's just turn this off to make it easy to look at. We've got 8, 6, and 2. And then we also have the other period, which is the 10 to 12 months, which is 5. So 8, 6, 2, and 5. Now, based on this, regression is going up for 12 months, the past 12 months, 16% a month, versus this in the scatter plot where we have access to all the data, not just 4 days in time or 3 days in time. We get access to all the data in a scatter plot. Things are actually going down at 1.6% a month. But because these just happen to fall on these 3 days where things looked really low, going up a bit and going up a bit, then it looks like things are definitely increasing at 16% a month. We know they're actually not. Like, they're definitely not when you look at day by day what's going on over the past year. But I understand what you might be thinking. First of all, do I really want to mark declining? Even though that's probably the most accurate thing, I'm going to get a reader of my report or an underwriter saying you did the wrong thing, you checked the wrong box. What I would do in Spark is just make sure that you check these boxes right here. Include the chart in your report, and make sure you include the regression analysis. So essentially, that's going to put this chart along with this regression number embedded in the chart into my report. So if anyone questions me, I can just say, hey, look, this is what it's actually doing. Not just looking at 3 days in time, but what it's actually doing, it's going down at 1.6% a month. Okay, so that's my spiel on that. I know I took a lot of time on that. So now let's just quickly get into what the difference is between actives and listings. I've gone over in probably more depth than you wanted to hear about what actives are. What listings are is essentially when we base listings on when the property was listed, so its list date, rather than if it was available on any given point in time. It's just based on the list date. So for example, here you can see these red dots. Those most days over the past year, no properties went on the market. So there were 0 listings that went on the market. That's what all these zeros are. But there were some where listings did go on the market. So here, that listing number, that went on the market that day, that went on the market that day. On this day, 2 properties were listed. On this day, 3 properties were listed. Anyways, you get the point. So listings are based on the actual list date. Actives are based on Fannie Mae's definition of what an active is, which is how many actives there are on any given point in time. Okay, so that's it. I think I covered everything I wanted to. Although I should point out that this applies to everything when you look at actives and listings. So if I click this card and I flip it over and I change what it's analyzing, when you see REO listings and actives, that is what you're looking at. So REO listings, you're going to see, okay, there's 0 listings that went on the market that were REO, except for on this day just before May, and on this day just before July. There was one went on the market and one went on the market. But if I switch that over to REO actives, you'll see it actually looks at how many actives there were on the market at any given point in time that were REO. So remember, there was one that went on the market just before May, one that went on the market just before July. And you can see right before May, okay, it went from 0 to 1. That one stayed on the market, and then another one went on the market. So now there were 2 REOs on the market, and then it looks like they either sold or maybe they expired or were canceled. And then, so yeah, that's it. You get the point. All right, I'll stop talking now. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.